well, I've got my face on here. Good afternoon, everyone. Stop sharing and welcome you all to our weekly webinar. Once again, I am delighted to see all of you and especially excited about our conversation today, which I'll get started in just a moment. But first, as always, if you are not one of the presenters today, please make sure that you mute yourself and use the chat if you have any questions or thoughts or anything you'd like to share. And I'll be watching that. And so I think we'll have some fun conversation. As always, we are recording. So we will post this video on our YouTube channel so that folks who couldn't join us today will be able to watch. And if any of you would like to review it again, and if any of our special guests want to see themselves again, that will be an option as well. And let's see, we have Y showings upcoming. We had one in Emporia, Kansas last night, and I hear that there were 120 folks there, and also that they almost got the lights turned off on them because there was such a rich conversation, and people really found the movie valuable, which is completely unsurprising to me. So if you haven't seen Y yet, keep your eye on the My Alliance newsletter for a showing near you. We've got some coming up in Wichita, Manhattan, Hutchinson, Kansas City, Missouri, Lawrence, and then I know a lot of you are super eager to know when it will be widely available. So stay tuned. I'll keep you in a little bit of suspense about that for a while, but it is coming. With that said, I am very excited to move into our topic for today. First, I need to do a little technical support here. Let me see if I can do that while I also talk to you. What I'm doing is spotlighting. All of you are wonderful and special, and I'm happy to have you here. But I'm spotlighting a few people who agreed when I asked to be speakers for today. And these ladies, you can see the names that they're using on the screen, Sia, Jan, and Renee. These ladies attended at least one or more of our family series over the last 4 weeks, from July 13th through August 3rd. And when I was thinking about how I could maximize that experience and how we could share information with as many folks as possible, one of my colleagues, Uriel, actually came up with a great idea of asking the family series participants if they would be willing to share what that was like for them on a weekly webinar. And I thought, oh, that's beautiful. Yes, I would love for people to do that. And to my great, great honor, I asked and people said yes. They said yes enthusiastically. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I've got one more. Ellie is here. Hi, Ellie. So I'm going to make you in the spotlight too.
Well, thank you.
Yes. And then while I just do this one technical thing, I'll just ask for Sia, Jan, and Renee, and Ellie, who are the 4 ladies who agreed to speak today. If you all will think about, and when you're ready, answer the first question I have for you all, and that is, what made you decide to participate in the family series? Why did you choose to join?
Well, I joined because I just felt totally overwhelmed. I felt like I was drowning. And I went to your session and you became like an anchor for me. You explained what was happening, not sugar-coated, but you had enthusiasm and you had optimism. And I needed to connect with someone who made me feel up, not down.
Wonderful. Well, that was one of my goals, Ellie. Thank you so much. And I think just before anybody else jumps in, I just want to say I don't think I can spotlight Ellie because she doesn't have her camera on. So it's not that I don't want her to be front and center, but I don't have the ability. But we can hear you and we can see your smiling photo, Ellie. So continue to speak up. And then Sia, Jan, and Renee, you all are front and center on my screen. And I believe that's the same for everybody else. So do any of you want to share what made you decide, yep, I'm going to go spend my Thursdays at that family series?
Well, I had a lot of questions as to whether I was doing the right thing. And there were a lot of odd behaviors that I didn't understand in the person I'm caring for. And I thought, well, is my husband the only one behaving like this, or is everybody? And it's just something I have to deal with. And then how do I deal with it? I didn't know how to deal with it in the best way. So Kelly's was very helpful, and she offered a lot of practical, comfortable ways to go about things. And I really enjoyed the class.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jan. And just so everybody knows, our goal in having this conversation was to share a bit of the family series with you, especially a lot of you who said you couldn't attend for lots of reasons, distance, or because you couldn't leave your loved one, or because you had to work, or because you refused to cross the state line. I mean, whatever the reason. I do not want anybody to think that this was just my clever way of getting some nice words said about me, although I really appreciate that. So thank you for that. That's my disclaimer. And Sia, Renee, I'll invite you to share why the family series was appealing to you.
Well, I can go. I am not the primary caregiver for my father. He lives with his wife, but she had been encouraging me to get caregiver training, as she calls it. And I had done bits and pieces. I had done this webinar off and on pretty much all spring. But what made the family series accessible to me was that it was in the summer when I'm a homeschooler, so I had fewer responsibilities at home. It was short, like compacted into 4 weeks. My husband, I think, thought that this was going to be ongoing forever. I'm like, no, it's over. We got what we needed. It was free. That was a definite bonus. So those were the things that made it possible for me to attend. I didn't have to make arrangements for my father, but I did have to have time in my schedule to make it happen.
Good. Well, I'm so glad that it was at a good time for you and it worked for you. And I'm charmed that your husband thinking that it was going to be ongoing forever and ever. And so as
we're
those
going to the movies tonight.
But your Thursday night yours again.
Right. Yes. Completely unrelated to Alzheimer's.
I love it. Very good. Well, thank you. Okay, and Sia, what about you? What made you come?
Well, I went to see the Y showing in Salina. I live in Manhattan. And so I picked up all the papers. My sister has dementia. We're just trying to learn about it. I'm also not the primary caregiver. So wanted to learn about it. And then I've taken in the newsletter and the webinars and stuff, but I really wanted to be with people in a room. After the pandemic, I've done a lot of speaking online and going to meetings online, and I just wanted to be with people. Now it ends up I'm in Wichita helping my son recover from surgery. So I've had to drive up from Wichita. So I came to the first two and then didn't to the second two. But Kelly, the thing that's so helpful to me is then you sent the slides from the second two, which I read through. So even though I was just there for the first two and got to be in a room with people who I imagine are feeling some of the things I am, which is just comforting in itself. And then I got the information. So I really wanted information. I'm an educator myself. So when something comes up, I want to learn more about it. And Ellie, I really loved your comment that Kelly balanced optimism with realism. There was no sugarcoating things. This is the way it is. And yet there was an energy in the room that Kelly had a lot to do with stirring up that, it is what it is. And here are some things that we should know about and maybe that could help ourselves and our loved one through this time that is. So that's why I appreciated having it. We talked the other day, Kelly, I think it would probably be possible then for people to also zoom in on that meeting. It's not the same as being there, but I still think it would be better than not having it. And then those people could still get the slides afterwards.
Sure.
So they could kind of feel part of it, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Sia, that's a great point. I know there's been a lot of people asking if we could do the family series virtually, and the world has changed over the last 3 years, and now virtual seems to be the default in so many cases. I, for one, would love to be able to offer the family series as a virtual option at some point, and that's something we on our team will sit down and think through and figure out, so that we can make it accessible to as many folks as possible. There's a question in the chat that I want to get to, but just before I do that, because I don't want to forget to say, anybody who did not attend the family series, there's a special offer today only. Not just today, I'm kidding, but anytime. If you'd like to have any of the slides from one or more of the sessions, I will be happy to share those with you. It's I put them together as a PDF. You won't get all my dad jokes and my side comments and things that just occurred to me in the moment, as these four ladies can tell you happen. So you won't get some of that add the material, but you will get the truth. You will get the facts that are in the slides. So if that's something you'd like, feel free to email me. And I'm happy to share those slides. So to the chat, Beth wants to know, Jan, what were some of the behaviors that you mentioned that you learned about in the class?
Okay, well, in particular, the reluctance to change his clothes, the reluctance to take a bath, the reluctance to have any kind of change. Well, another thing is this inability to follow a process. And I didn't realize that was part of it. And also the inability to judge his distance from one place to another. Going to sit down and he's like 3 feet away from the chair. And that was mentioned in the class. I thought that might be unique to my husband, but when he goes up to the chair, and he doesn't have a sense of the distance from the chair, and it's dangerous because he could fall instead of sitting down. And that is a symptom that was mentioned in the class notes, and among the other things, but reluctant to do any kind of change.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the family series we think is really good at doing, is making you feel like you're not the only one, and this is part of a diagnosis. This is almost certainly not something that's happening intentionally on the part of your loved one or purposefully or just because they're ornery. I mean, they might be ornery, but they were already that way before the diagnosis. Diagnosis might intensify that in some ways. And so there's real value, just as there is in attending a support group, for example, in being able to look around the room and know it's not just you, you're not alone. Somebody else can say, yeah, I have been there and done that. And as these guests will know, everything that we talked about in the family series, I believe to be true and useful and all of that. There were some highlights I wanted all of them and all of you to take away, and that is that dementia, whether it's of the Alzheimer's type or one of 70 or 100 other types of dementias, are indeed diagnoses. They are disease processes. They are not normal aging. They can probably say it with me now. They are not normal aging, and we want to be particularly thoughtful about reminding ourselves of that as we care for our loved ones. Another thing we talked about a lot was that Alzheimer's disease is about so much more than memory loss. Short-term memory loss is one of the hallmarks of the disease, and people have the hardest time retaining new information. One of the beautiful parts of that is that long-term memory seems to survive for a long time in Alzheimer's disease. And that's when we can sometimes hear some really great stories from our loved ones that we might not have ever heard before, or we might get reminded about, or we see a new side of grandma because her long-term memory is really sharp there. And so I believe the family series is a really good way to learn about something more than just Alzheimer's, because as we who are caregivers of our loved ones with the disease, you find out in a way that you might not have wanted to. So Ellie, I see you're still muted, and that's okay. Since you're not in the spotlight, I don't want to forget that you're there. So feel free to chime in. My next question for any or all of you, and thank you for using the chat, everybody else there that's watching. My next question for our spotlight folks is, What, if anything, might you do differently now that you've attended the family series? And that's not meant to be a trick question or a loaded question, just one I thought of.
I think I can go first here. I feel like lots of times the information you presented was right before I needed it, which
Huh.
was really helpful. I had noticed that my father was starting to be a little off color sometimes and say some things that you wouldn't like say in polite company, for instance. And that was, the week that you talked about the filter, like losing control of that frontal lobe and your filter. Um, and that had become actually a pretty big concern of mine, because I want to take him out and go places and do things, but I don't want to offend other people who aren't ready to be around him. And so one mention that came up was for companion cards, which was, I'm gonna just sort of show one, but I don't know. Can you even read it?
We see the butterfly, but I think because your
Okay,
is blurred,
it's
the
because
butterfly
I'm all blur it out. Here we
Yep.
go.
There you go.
Try that. Okay, so companion cards that say basically, I'm sorry. He doesn't know what he's doing. He has Alzheimer's. And I cannot tell you the amount of relief I have just having those. So that, I don't, yeah. So we can still go out in public. And, if he says something that would not be allowed in, my family, it's okay. So that happened, and I noticed a whole lot more of that over the course of the 4 weeks of the class. His filter has dropped even more, but I was sort of prepared for it
Okay.
because of the class.
Good.
I'm also prepared to be on the lookout for things like you talked about toileting being a big thing, and you talked about why, and you talked about how it manifests, and that gives me questions to ask his wife, how is he doing with this? Where are we with this? Because that's not something I do with him, that's something she does with him. But I just felt like more often than not, it was either right when I needed that piece of information or right before I needed that piece of information that you magically presented it. And it wasn't too much, it was like one or two magical nuggets for me every week that I could then, remember. It wasn't overwhelmed.
Oh, good. That's good to know. I just want, here's another disclaimer. I can't take credit for any good timing for this class. I will acknowledge that having done the family series this last time and having taught it several times in the past, I learn as much as I teach, probably more, as much as I teach from the family series, from hearing people who are so generous and sharing their stories. And so I think that's the value for me as the leader of the family series, and for you all as attendees, and even you all who are watching this webinar, just being in the room, as Thea said, with someone else, being in the room where it happens, to make a Hamilton reference. It's so meaningful to know, this is happening. I can expect it to happen. Here's some strategies that somebody else used to make it work or not work, but to get through it, however that might be. So I'm glad that that's been the intended effect. Jan or Ellie or Sia, anything that you might have done differently because of the family series?
Yes, I really appreciated the information I got from you about the loss of the noise filter, for example.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that was happening. And my husband got very irritated when I vacuumed one day.
Oh, no.
And I asked him, "Do you want to vacuum?" And he said, "No." But now I know why he
Now you
got
know
so upset.
why.
And
Wow.
then, So realizing that they're losing the filter gives me a way of knowing when to approach or do, or how to handle when things come up, because it's a new territory for me.
Absolutely. For those who might wonder what a noise filter is, as we talked about, I believe in probably all of our sessions, but particularly in the second session, which was about behavior and communication, we know that, of course, beyond short-term memory loss and memory loss in general, with Alzheimer's disease or other dementias, the part of the brain that helps us to process our environment, what we hear around us, has a harder time. So hopefully you all can't hear, but in the room where I am, I have a fan going because it's August in Kansas City. So I have a fan on and it's like white noise. I can hear it. It's not particularly loud or obnoxious that I can tell, but I can hear it. And because I don't have dementia, I can pretty much ignore it. Someone who has dementia might hear that fan and be bothered by it, might hear Ellie's vacuum and think, what in the world, that's too loud, it's annoying, I can't take it. And in addition to that challenge, not be able to have the words to say that, not be able to, because of cognitive decline, may not be able to express to Ellie, your vacuuming is annoying, I don't want to do it, but I want you to stop doing it. And so that's just one of the deficits that we see as part of this disease process, is that folks with dementia cannot always filter out invasive, what they might consider invasive noises. We also know that as all of us age, our risk of having hearing loss increases. And isn't it the case that you can hear none of what you want and everything of what you don't when your hearing changes over time? And so that can be another factor into why environment can be challenging for our loved ones with the disease. So I'm glad to point that out. If it can help anybody who feels like, well, why is he just irritated with everything I do and everything that he hears and everything that he said, that anybody else says, we know that that's one of the consequences of this disease. All right, Sia or Jan, or Renee, anything else about things you might do differently?
Well, I think having more information just kind of ratcheted up conversations with the rest of my siblings and my mom about we need to act sooner rather than later because here's the progression and things might start going faster. And then the resources you offered in the last session. I think so. It wasn't so, I'm not the primary caregiver, so it wasn't so much that, but just the information was empowering as far as, yeah, these are the steps, this is how things are predicted to go. So, you know, we might want to try to stay ahead of them.
Yeah. I've noticed both Renee and Sia in particular, and this, I'm not calling you out or anything, but I've noticed both of you have identified yourselves as not the primary caregiver. And hold on thought, because there's a question forming. I'll get to it here in just a moment. Something that has surprised me in my years of working in this population is how many family members do the hard work of caregiving and loving and meeting all these needs, and somehow say, well, I'm not a caregiver, I'm not doing anything that I wouldn't do. Of course, I'm going to love my fill in the blank. So I guess the question I'm kind of getting to for any of you is, how has your role changed with your loved one? To the extent that you feel comfortable answering that. What has that meant for you? What does that look like in the time that you've been whatever kind of caregiver you are?
Oh, I can definitely talk to this. So having raised 3 kids and lived life not so long ago as a mom of kids at home as my dad's wife, I have gone from, you can't really have a conversation so much with dad. You can't say, so what'd you do today? What's coming up this weekend? You just can't do that. So I've just kicked myself into field trip mode. And, we go on field trips together. There's also a program that KU put together called the Purpose Project. And it's an opportunity to volunteer with your person with Alzheimer's, volunteering is something that, I've kind of been out of the loop on for the last year or so, but I love volunteering. So I've taken him to Scraps, Kansas City. I have taken him to Harvesters. We go and we do things, because just sitting here in a room with nothing to do is horrible for both of us. But I really want to provide that to his wife, that break. And I want to have that time with him. So we do that and he has a great time, but it has definitely changed the relationship entirely. It's not just dad's coming over and hanging out and we're playing cribbage or we're doing whatever. He can't do any of those same things. So yeah, that's how it's changed for me.
Okay, very good.
The class gave me a perspective on the fact that it's just an ongoing experience, and it makes it less overwhelming and less, it's scary. It's still scary because he's not nearly as far along as he's going to be. And that's kind of scary, but if I can train my mind to put it into the future a little bit and just take it one day at a time, I enjoy caring for him. It's not that much of a problem, and just try to go about it with a measure of affection and humor, and
And patience.
patience.
Mhm.
There's an end to the patience. No, you haven't taken a shower for 3 days. It's time to take a shower. He just, he makes me promises which he doesn't keep. And I just tell him, you don't keep your promises, not going to, but I try to handle it with good humor and with the long haul relationship in mind. And that, somehow I think the class helped me get that understanding of this is a long haul process, and just do your best every day.
Okay.
I think for me that there's been a transition from the main concern is for my sister to the main concern is for my mother, who's 93 years old and is in the same, she's taking care of my sister. So, and I know that caregivers are often, they die because they get worn out. And so then, that just doubles all the complexity, because then you have a person who doesn't have a caregiver, plus the caregiver's life has been cut short or certainly restricted. My mom's life is certainly restricted. So that's been an interesting kind of transition for all of my siblings, and who really is the person we need to be most concerned about at this point. Both, of course. So that's been a transition as the not the primary caregiver, as a little bit on the outside. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I have been multitasking, listening to you all share your wisdom and also answering a comment and question that Beth put in the chat. And I'll say it, I'm going to press enter on my last sort of answer here and say a little bit more about that. My goodness, the time has flown by. Beth asked whether the family series is for, you can come even if there is not a diagnosis for the dementia. The answer is always and forever, anyone who wants to come can come, full stop, whether there's a diagnosis or not. We're happy to walk through wherever you are on the journey. And Beth also brought up the very common thought that, the husband doesn't want to go to the doctor. I wish I could wave my magic wand and say abracadabra. Well, if I had a magic wand, I'd say no more Alzheimer's. That's what I would do. I can't do that. If I had a magic wand and there was somebody who had some concerns about Alzheimer's, I'd wave it and say, you are going to the doctor. Here you go. And I don't have that power yet. And what I typed to Beth is that, of course, it's not surprising that people wouldn't want to go to the doctor. This can be very scary, overwhelming. Denial is not just a river in Egypt. This is a lot. But because of that, that's why early detection and diagnosis are so important. Playing the role of an ostrich and saying, la, 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 I can't hear you, is not going to change anything. going to a healthcare provider, primary care physician, geriatric physician, neurologist, geriatric psychiatrist, whoever it is, social worker, will not make the disease go away if indeed that's what's happening. But it will give you some information, it will buy you some time. It will, in some way, as you've heard these ladies say, I think I can paraphrase what they've said, it will give you, if you get yourself some education and some support, it will give you some peace of mind. It doesn't mean you'll never feel overwhelmed or frustrated, but going ahead and seizing the information that you can get will be better than not doing anything at all. And as I said to Beth in the chat, it's really easy for me to type that from this side of the equation. Although I did have some personal experience with my grandmothers. So we are at 2:30, and I know at least one of us has to skedaddle. So any of you who need to skedaddle, feel free. I want to, again, from the bottom of my heart, thank Jan and Sia and Ellie for giving of their time today and being so open to putting a face on this experience. It's one of the reasons I love reading autobiographies so much, because I'm just curious, and I'm really grateful when people are willing to tell their story. So thank you all for doing that. I'll remind all of you, if you want any of the slides from the family series, please reach out to me. You can send an email to myalliance@kumc.edu, and I'll be happy to send them. Most likely, just for efficiency, if you ask for them, I will send them all to you, all four sets. And you can take what you can use and leave the rest. I will not know if you delete it. It's fine. You'll be more than welcome to use it. Please stay tuned for future presentations of the family series, whether that will be virtual or in person or some combination of both. Most likely will be in the Kansas City area because that's where I am. But if we have opportunities to provide the family series at other locations, we will. And it doesn't have to just be me. I'm happy to work with somebody else at another location to do the family series if that would work. So stay tuned for that. Next week, our topic is going to be, our guest speaker will be Dr. Tiffany Schmidt from, she's our colleague at the KU School of Medicine in Wichita. And she is at the Center for Clinical Research there. She's going to talk about the work that they're doing just down the road from us. And also we will be screening why in Wichita on Friday, September 8th. And Dr. Tiffany and her team are going to be co-hosting with us that presentation of why. Michelle Needens, our wonderful friend here in Kansas City, will be at that location to answer questions after the video. So if you're in proximity to Wichita on Friday, September 8th in the evening, 5, 6, you'll see it in my Alliance, I promise. Then you can check that out. Mandy is asked me in the chat. Sorry, Mandy, I realized that was just to me. I didn't mean to out you. But yes, the webinar next week is at the same time, 2:00 Central Time every Thursday. Thank you, Trisha. Trisha Steele is one of the folks on our team in Wichita. And she has put in the chat that this screening is at 5:00 in Wichita on September 8th. And the address is there in the chat, 1010 North Kansas Avenue, I think. And it's in the Roberts Amphitheater. I'm pretty sure that's the correct name. It's going to be in the next few issues of Why, so you'll have that information at the next few issues of Why. I feel like everything is called Why. The next few issues of My Alliance. So you'll have those dates, and as well as some other times that we are going to be showing My Alliance to you. So stay tuned for that. And yes, the weekly webinar is every Thursday all year long, with the exception of holidays. Like Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday, so we won't be meeting on that Thursday. And whenever the winter holidays or 4th of July, or if something's on a Thursday, depending on how it works out, we may or may not have a webinar. But if it's Thursday, most likely we'll be here. So thank you for asking that. And again, thank you all for being here. Again, Jan, Sia, Renee, Ellie, you're my heroes. Thank you so much for being willing to share yourselves today. And don't think this will be the last time, because I know how to find you. And I would love to stay in touch with you and everybody who's on the webinar for today.